Part of an effort to align German arts and culture with Nazi ideas, university students in college towns across Germany burned thousands of books they considered to be un-German, which would be socialist, anarchist books, heralding an era of state censorship and cultural control. Again, all narrative. Students threw books pillaged mostly from public and university libraries into bonfires with great ceremony, band playing, and so-called fire oaths. The students, this is like unbelievable. The students sought to purify German literature of foreign, especially Jewish and other immoral influences. That's probably the only true thing in this whole article. They did link liberalism with Jewish literature, just like what Spielberg does with Hollywood, where they twist the narrative. Okay, again, we're seeing it in America right now, and this is what they're doing. So the students sought to purify German literature of foreign, especially Jewish and other immoral influences. Among the authors whose works were burned was Helen Keller, an American whose belief in social justice, which is bullshit, encouraged her to champion disabled persons, pacifism, improved conditions for industrial workers, and women's voting rights. Look at this. The person who wrote this puts Helen Keller as the champion of social justice and pacifism. And this is not true at all. Go read her works. She is a fighter. This woman is a fighter. And she was not a champion of pacifism and social justice. We're seeing these terms now, but pacifism is what is their weapon. And that's what I want to talk about in general. I keep saying it to the Christians because the Christians have been so pacified they can't even see it. They find new ways to be victims and sufferers. And it's reaching a point where it's pressing the Americans to wake them up because the exact same thing happened. But yeah, this is perfect propaganda attributed to Helen Keller, which is not true. So if you're thinking, well, maybe they're right, go read Helen Keller's work and decide for yourself, like I did. It's amazing literature, and you can tell that she was pro-Nazi. Okay, so let's get to the next clip here. I have them in no particular order, but they are the clips that I have here on the Nuremberg trials from 1947 are all the hardest evidence you'll get. So it's not me picking the weakest stuff to prove my case. I am showing the worst of the worst. So let's do the next one.
They are symbols of fierce nationalism and of militarism, of intrigue and war-making, which have embroiled Europe generation after generation, crushing its manhood, destroying its homes, and impoverishing its life. Civilization can afford no compromise with the social forces which would gain renewed strength if we deal ambiguously or indecisively.
Step by step, the prosecution unfolded the story of the Nazi conspiracy against peace and humanity.
Okay, so there you go. There's more. These people are evil because they stood up and fought. They fought against. So there's again, they hate the fighting spirit, and that's the whole communist agenda. They need to pacify the masses, and that's essentially the crux of what this guy is saying. He's saying, how dare these people fight? And they're demonizing him, okay? Let's keep going here. All right, next one.
You remember now, Hess. But there were obstacles in the way of the fascist beast. Man and his ideas and ideals. Culture. Books. And so the books went hurling into the flames. And the savages danced and sang. Suppose the world does lie in ruins. To hell with it.
Okay, there's the book burning. That's actually the whole reason I talked about the book burning. And that's all they mention in this Nuremberg trial by the Allies, is that one clip about the book burning and how evil they are because they're silencing speech. When in truth, again, I just explained it to you, it was one night, a stupid night. Hitler reprimanded it, just like Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht was one night. You have to understand that these people were responding to the liberal chains that was put on Germany, and when Hitler came to power, they were so fired up, this shit happened. Again, it was orchestrated by the schools, and Hitler wrote a personal letter to the teacher. I I can't find it for the life of me, but I have read it. He read a personal letter to the teacher reprimanding him, saying that you sent Germany back 20 years in a single night. Okay, next up.
The Soviet prosecution showed and demonstrated how the Nazis secretly prepared for World War. Everything was bent to this purpose.
Again, I'm capturing the most indictable accusations by the narrator, and this is that the Nazis planned war from the beginning. Now, this is a narrator putting propaganda over top of the words of the people in there, because again, this video was made 1947, and that's the worst he has. Is they planned it all from the beginning. Okay, so let's listen to what the officials have to say here.
Your Worship, I shall now proceed to the crimes committed by the Nazi aggressors against my country, against the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. On June the 22nd, 1941, Hitler Germany treacherously attacked the USSR. But this date does not mark the beginning of the realization of Hitler Germany's aggressive plans against the Soviet Union. The accused Keitel has testified that Hitler intended to attack the USSR at the end of 1940, and the plan for the attack had been worked out even earlier, in the spring of 1940. This is confirmed by the testimony of the accused Jodl, who during his interrogation stated that the plans for the attack on the USSR were given concrete and detailed form in November and December 1940. Jodl is referring to the document known as Case Barbarossa. This document is signed by Hitler, Jodl, and Keitel.
Operation Barbarossa.
The Barbarossa plan envisaged the lightning destruction of the Soviet armies in the very first week of hostilities. The main blows were to be delivered against Leningrad, Moscow, and Kiev, and the objective was the Archangel-Astrakhan line. As the German General Staff conceived it, when the German armies had reached the Volga, the Soviet Union will have been completely demolished. The aggressors were tantalized by the unbounded expanses of our country. Their eyes had long been fixed on our land, our oil, our coal, our natural wealth.
Okay, so I'm actually going to pause it right there, and I am going to prove to you that it's the opposite. I wasn't going to do this actually. I'm going to pause it. I'm going to prove to you that it is the exact opposite, which made the Nazis respond to what was going on. Okay, so this specific speech here is a speech that Hitler gave on Veterans Day to the veterans. No people and no regime will wage war simply for the sake of waging war. That anyone would stride forth into a war merely for the pure joy of killing and bloodshed, such a delusion can take hold only in the brains of perverted Jewish literati. What is decisive in this context is that the German government not only pursued no war aim in the year 1914, but also in the course of the war never managed to arrive at a reasonable or even precise determination of an aim to be pursued. The peace treaty of Versailles, which he blamed everything on, I'll explain that in a minute. The peace treaty of Versailles, by contrast, clearly reveals the true war aims of the British and French encirclement politicians: the theft of the German colonies, the elimination of German trade, the destruction of all basis for German life and existence, Germany's removal from all positions in power and politics. All in all, this added up to precisely the same war aim the British and French encirclement politicians still pursue today. In Germany, at the time, regrettably, there were men who thought they need not pay any attention to the extremist proclamations of English papers and English politicians on the necessity of taking away the German colonies, of eliminating German trade, all goals already apparent in peacetime. The World War and the peace diktat of Versailles have instructed the German nation differently. What in former times apparently irresponsible journalists pronounce as the sick products of their only merely of their own fantasy or hatred, became the goals of British policy, namely the theft of the German colonies, the elimination of German trade, the destruction of the German merchant marine, the power political nervous breakdown, and destruction of the Reich, and by inference, the political and bodily extermination of the German Volk. These were the goals of the British policy of encirclement before the year 1914. So again, that, by the way, is June 4th, 1939, just before the war. So he's talking about this stuff, which is, again, what they do is anyone who pushes back against the tightening grip, the legislative grip of communism, is a Nazi. That's what's happening here. And Hitler in 1939, June 4th or whatever I said it was, is him shouting, saying, listen, this is coming. He goes, these people won't stop. He just wants to be left the fuck alone. And they won't stop because the British wanted all of the Germany actually as their own colonies, as additions to their own British colonies. The same thing happened in the 1700s with America. America's independence is predicated on exactly what they wanted for Germany. They wanted their own independence. But the narrative is that any pushback is somebody who wants world domination. And that ties into being pacified. They want everyone pacified. And if you fight back, which is what's happening to Donald Trump, you're a Nazi. Okay, so I'll go back a bit. This is where we are.
Our oil, our coal,
He didn't want all
our
that.
natural wealth. In the early hours of June the 22nd, 1941, without declaring war and without any excuse for war, the Nazis fell upon our country.
Hold it one more time.
Belarusian declaring war and without any excuse for war, the Nazis fell upon our country.
The Nazis fell upon our country? Certainly not America, but who gives a shit, because it's a bunch of war pictures and let's make the Nazis bad guys. These guys weren't on American soil. Anyways.
Belarusian cottages went up in flames. Bombs rained down on Ukrainian towns. We thought they were taking an easy and pleasant promenade through Russia. But Russia, like Holland, would drop on her knees. Alfred Rosenberg had his plan ready for the dismemberment of the USSR. This is Rosenberg.
Now, Alfred Rosenberg, remember I talked about one of my last videos. He's an author. He wrote. This guy wasn't killing anybody. He was an author. They wanted to make an example of these people.
Signature. Hitler appointed Rosenberg Vice Minister of the occupied Eastern Territories. Rosenberg's plan was to liquidate the USSR as an independent.
Listen to the music, by the way. They're showing the footage, and the music is, they're so dangerous. I guarantee you, if these people win in 20 years, all of these people will be footage of American patriots. This is what they do.
State to deport the Russians to Siberia. The Baltic states were to be Germanized. Belarusia was to become a German province, and the Ukraine a German colony. The Germans were to lay their hands on the oil of the Caucasus. Rosenberg made the plans.
Okay, one more time. One more time here.
Rosenberg had his plan of the occupied Eastern
Listen.
Territories. Rosenberg's plan was to liquidate the USSR as an independent state, to deport the Russians to Siberia. The Baltic states were to be Germanized. Belarusia was to become a German province, and the Ukraine a German colony.
So the colonization, that phraseology is British. The Germans wanted one land as Germany, which would later become Germania, which was his dream. But that's all speculative. Anyways, notice how the narrator is putting the ideas in your head. You're not listening to anyone in the stands. You're not listening to them speak. You're listening to the fucking narrator.
The Germans were to lay their hands on the oil of the Caucasus. Rosenberg made the plans.
Okay, so let's get to the questions here. Let's see what they got. By the way, this is the evidence you're going to find in America on the Nuremberg trials. You're not going to get actual words out of their mouths because they don't want you